one of the things that I've found, like when we've had our one-on-ones and the evaluations and things like that, when you guys have asked me some more direct questions and I have opened up and been honest, as terrifying as the initial like ripping off the Band-Aid was, it actually opened up just a much bigger, better conversation.
Hello again, and welcome to the podcast. We had a small technical difficulty that quickly resolved itself. Today we are talking with Jannie. This conversation is being stemmed from a conversation that she and I had yesterday. And so we're kind of just going to continue the conversation on. We'll kind of touch on what that conversation was here in a little bit. But first and foremost, let's read a review. This is from Lisa V. Lisa says, great group of people to work with, very professional and courteous. They make the claims process simple, helpful service throughout the entire process. I definitely recommend them to everyone. Thank you to Lisa V for leaving us an incredible review. I'm going to scooch it just a little bit. We always appreciate that. So anybody who hasn't left us a review, please do so. We greatly appreciate it. It's super helpful.
Yes.
So let's start out with our peak and our pit.
Okay.
So we have been starting off our podcast with a peak and a pit for anybody who hasn't chimed in recently. And we're kind of just talking what's something that's going really well, something that maybe hasn't gone so well. And yeah, so for me, I think my peak right now is the weather. Yes. Because I love walking outside.
Yes.
I know we share this love. And I just love going outside, putting my little headphones in my ears, and just beat bopping around my neighborhood.
That's the best.
It's so good.
Yes.
I love it so much. And especially when the weather is not like excruciatingly painfully hot.
Yes.
And it's not like wicked cold. It's just a really great temperature for cruising in my sneaks, walking around in circles outside. I love it so much.
With or without Haven and Heidi?
You know, my preference is by myself.
Yes.
Definitely.
Me too.
Because I don't have to manage rats.
Yes.
Large rats. But I do love taking them on walks too, because I know that they enjoy it and it exhausts them and it's great. But the preference is definitely by myself.
Yeah. I would agree. I like to walk Phoebe. Well, I like to go on walks too. I get in trouble by my dog Phoebe if she knows I've gone on a walk without her. Oh, no. She will pout with me.
Oh, no.
So sometimes just out of sheer guilt, I take her.
Yeah, there's emotional manipulation happening here.
For sure. There's emotional manipulation. They're not dummies. They know how this works.
No. Jake sent me a video last night, maybe we were talking about it here in the office. I can't remember, but the dog... it was a comedian. He was talking about how his dog experiences everything with him. So, like, if he's mad and angry at the TV or at a game or something, the dog's in the corner with like a toy or something, just like experiencing just the emotions.
Feels all of it along with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what's your peak?
My peak this week so far, there's two things I can't decide. So I'm going to say both. I got my kids a badminton set. We had started playing badminton like 5 years ago. I am not the most athletic person you'll ever meet.
Okay.
But I have so much fun doing this with my kids. And we put it up in my backyard this week on Sunday on Easter.
Side note, Jannie has a gigantic backyard. I've been to her house without knowing. And it is a giant backyard.
It's so big. So we set up this badminton net. And we have had the best time. None of us are really great at it, but I think that's part of the fun. We don't play by the rules. I don't even know the official rules of badminton. Don't know. Don't care to know. We're just trying to get it over the net however we can. And it has been the most fun with my kids to just get outside and part of that.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
So remind me, I know I've played badminton like in gym class in high school. Yes. Is that the one with the goofy looking?
Yeah. The little, they call them birdies, or I think the official term is shuttlecocks.
Okay.
And we have like we were so hardcore about it 5 years ago. We got ones off of Amazon that have like they're battery operated, so they'll light up at night. So after dark, you can still play because you're seeing the little.
That sounds like so much fun.
So fun. So we've just had the best time, just being silly. I mean, if we can get it going back and forth 10 times, we feel like we are pros.
Yeah.
And so yesterday we did that, and also my other peak is we celebrated my dog Phoebe's birthday.
Oh, yes.
So we took her out for a pup cup, and there's just something so precious about watching a dog enjoy ice cream. I don't know. But we're all pretty obsessed. It's not a secret. We're obsessed with our dog.
Yes.
And so anytime we can celebrate her, we
yes.
take advantage of that. So we did badminton and got a pup cup for Phoebe. So it was like the perfect day.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I have to second that as far as watching a dog eat ice cream.
Yes.
There is something also satisfying for myself to watch them eat it. So that's funny.
Just nothing like it. So what's your pit?
I don't know. I was actually just thinking, like, I don't even really feel like I have a pit right now.
Same.
I think it was on Tuesday. I just felt really bleh. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was about Tuesday, but I just wasn't. Tuesday wasn't my vibe.
Yeah.
Wasn't a vibe.
So I have days like that too, where you just can't put your finger on why you're feeling kind of blah. But yeah, I'll have those from time to time. I think maybe, and this is a good thing to not be able to think of your pit. So if I had to pick a pit, like my car is really dirty right now, but every time I think it, so every time I see it, I'm like, oh, that's gross. But then I'll look at the forecast. I'm like, well, it's going to rain in 2 days, so I'm not going to.
Free car wash.
I'm not going to wash that. So,
save your dollar bills.
Exactly.
That's funny.
My dirty car is kind of bumming me out, but I'm just going to park it outside in a few days and see what happens.
I feel like the point of the peak in the pit, because obviously everybody and their mom wants to be a positive, optimistic person, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think I do think there's such a thing as toxic positivity, and I think it's okay to acknowledge that you have an emotion about something.
Yeah.
And just noticing it and then letting it pass, not making a big deal of it. And, like my Tuesday situation, Tuesday wasn't a vibe, no big deal, keep it moving. Sure. Wednesday was great.
Yes. Well, I think when you don't allow yourself to acknowledge it, it doesn't keep you from feeling it. Like you're still feeling it. Yeah. You're just not allowing yourself to let it pass.
Yeah.
So it's still there, and it'll come out eventually if you don't let yourself just experience it.
Yeah, and misdirected, oftentimes, for myself anyway. Mm-hmm. It will come out misdirected at
somebody else.
Getting pissed off at someone on the highway.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've cut someone off before too. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, cool. Wait, did you say your car?
Yeah, my car.
Your car.
It is quite dirty. It's embarrassingly dirty. So it is a legitimate
On the inside? No, you said the outside.
The outside. The inside, as far as I can tell, the parts I see are clean. Now, when my kids ride in the back, I don't really look back there most of the time. But occasionally I'll stick something in the back of my car and be like, how long has this bottle of something been here? Yeah. So
what's the rollage time?
Yeah.
How many miles does this water bottle have on it?
How many miles has this water bottle been traveling with me? So.
Oh God, that's funny. So I don't remember. You're gonna have to refresh my memory. I don't remember like how or why we got started on the topic of people pleasing and kind of like living up to someone else's expectations.
I think it started with something Jake said. He asked, I can't remember what instigated him asking the question, but he asked if I thought he was a direct person.
That's right.
Yes.
We were going around the room.
Yes.
This is so right. So we were all asking, so it was me, Jannie, and Jake in the room. Dustin and Amanda are home sick today, or yesterday, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then Caleb was working back in the conference room. Mm-hmm. So it was just us three out there. And me and Jake, of course, we get into these ridiculous conversations. This one turned into a great conversation. Mm-hmm. And we were like, Jannie, so what type of people are we? And we were asking her to like describe us. And she went through and she described Jake, and then she described me, and then we were in turn describing you.
Yes.
Particularly me, I think. And
Yeah.
I was saying, you know, I feel like there are times where I feel like you're wanting me to say, or I'm asking you something and you're responding with what you think I want you to say, and then I recognize other times where you're like just straight shooting me,
Yeah.
and telling me what you really do think.
Yes.
And so then we started on this whole path of like, you know, presenting yourself to basically please someone else in that whole journey. So
yeah, because I think the journey that I've personally been on is one of going from being a people pleaser like 100% of the time to learning how to live out a more authentic and honest life, and realizing that honesty does not make me mean, which is kind of how I had equated those two things. So,
because I think whenever we're honest, there is a risk.
oh yeah,
There's a really big risk there, where if you're honest, you're risking the other person not receiving it well,
not understanding,
becoming emotionally triggered by it.
Yes.
And then you're left with, okay, if I don't know how they're going to respond, how am I going to respond?
Right.
You know, like it's kind of like an uncontrollable thing. So it's a really big risk to be that open and that honest, and not know how the other person is going to receive it, and to be okay with not knowing. It
makes both of you actually very vulnerable.
I think so too.
Yeah, and vulnerability is just, I think, maybe one of the hardest things of being a human, because our natural desire is to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Because safety is awesome. Like, who doesn't want to feel safe, whether that's physically safe or emotionally safe or whatever. But sometimes that safety keeps us from intimacy, and it keeps us from authenticity. We don't allow ourselves to really be ourselves in front of other people.
That is so true.
And that's just, I'm in my 40s now, and have gone through some fairly major life changes over the last 5 to 10 years, and it just kind of forced me to take a look at myself and how I was living my life, how I was presenting myself to the world, and made me ask those questions of like, is this really who I am? Is this how I want to live my life? Am I presenting myself as I am to even the people I'm close to?
Yeah.
And those were, I mean, like we were talking about, I'm still very much a work in progress, because my default is to people please. And so I find myself still doing that from time to time.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Especially in work situations.
I know. Being in a work environment is hard, because there's a very evident, like, I don't really like using this word, but it is what it is. It's a power dynamic.
Yeah.
You're working for X, Y, and Z,
sure,
whether it be a person or a company or a manager, just kind of depending on what that work setting looks like. And so there is this kind of nudge of just, show up and present the way you're expected to be presented. But, and I think maybe there's a time and a place for that. I don't want to call it like the wrong way of being, because I think that there's probably a good time and a place for it. But ultimately, I think the workplace that I desire to create, I can't speak for Dustin, Amanda, and Jake, but I wanted to be open and honest, because then we're creating a long-term relationship, and you're not here just collecting a check, and I'm not just collecting your time.
Sure.
And, I feel like there's a more genuine relationship that can happen.
Yes.
Versus, no, you come here, you do your job, and then I pay you, and then all hands are off.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've discovered, I've been here since July of last year, so coming up this summer on a year. And the longer I've been here, of course, the more comfortable I've gotten
Sure.
around everybody, the
Yeah,
more we've
yeah,
gotten
yeah.
to know each other and spend time together. But one of the things that I've found, like when we've had our one-on-ones and the evaluations and things like that, when you guys have asked me some more direct questions and I have opened up and been honest, as terrifying as the initial like ripping off the Band-Aid was, it actually opened up just a much bigger, better conversation. And I think probably everybody felt better after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
Because you addressed the situation.
Yeah.
And didn't like tiptoe around it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've found also in personal relationships. It's like I have always shied away from uncomfortable conversations and things that, and uncomfortable doesn't mean bad or negative, but just uncomfortable means vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
and not knowing.
And not knowing, exactly. Not knowing how people are going to receive information. But any time I have done that, it has opened up like a deeper channel within that relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a family relationship or a friendship or a work situation. And so that is helping me. We talked about like flexing that muscle. Like it's helping me make progress in that area where my default is still to people please and avoid hard conversations. But the more I do it and the more I see those positive results, the more I realize it's worth it.
Yeah.
Just like
so worth it.
Go for it.
That's one of my favorite things about Jake. Like I feel like I can like look back and I can like very vividly see a season where I had like 0 F's to give.
Yeah.
I was negative in the F department.
Yeah.
And I lived through that. And then I can also see seasons where I was just like, yes, ma'am, how high?
Right.
You know, that type of thing. And I feel like Jake has just very consistently been this person of like, I'm going to do what I want. And you're going to like it or you're not going to like it, but that's ultimately irrelevant to me. I'm going to do what I want to do. And as frustrating as it can be sometimes, I am so happy that I get to be around it so much because it gives me permission to step more into that and not hold back so much. No, it's okay if I disagree with someone.
Yes.
It's okay that someone's joke hurt my feelings. It's okay to be sensitive. You know, it's okay to have all of these seasons and all of these things that entails being a human.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I think when you give yourself permission to be a human being, I think it helps you start seeing other people differently too. Like, okay, so I'm a human being who's trying to be authentic in this world.
Yeah.
Everybody else is trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can extend the same compassion and grace to other people that we're learning to extend to ourselves.
Yes.
And that if somebody is offending me in their honesty or, you know, whatever, that's okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. It helps me discover things that I haven't dealt with. Like if someone says something that is some sort of trigger or I'm bothered in some way, shape, or form, I'm like, okay, so what has happened in the past where I haven't like completely allowed this to resolve?
Yeah.
Because I know that this person would not intentionally go out of their way. I mean, if you are around people where you feel like that's happening, that's a completely different conversation. But assuming that, you know, that's not happening and, you know, intentions are pure, intentions are good.
Right.
I feel like that's an opening to look at yourself a little bit more.
Sure.
Which is hard. So much easier said than done.
Absolutely. Yeah, because sometimes confronting the reason why you're triggered by something is very uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah, but
so uncomfortable.
It's for sure. And sometimes it's going to take some freaking time to work through it. But again, it's one of those things that, you know, ultimately is worth it. So
it's so worth it.
Yeah, and I think part of, you know, learning to not be a people pleaser was learning that I am allowed to set boundaries for myself. That is how I create safety, instead of just completely shutting everybody out and just, like we were talking about, shape-shifting into whoever I need to be for whoever I'm with. Instead of that being the way I protect myself, setting the boundaries is, if there are people that I know are actively like not respecting who I am as a person, then I kind of have to cut them out however I can. It's not always possible, depending on your situation, but you know, that's been a transition for me, is instead of protecting myself by people pleasing and not just being myself, learning how to set those boundaries and realizing that I'm not for everybody. Everybody is not for me. Right. And that's okay. So we don't have to hang out if we don't. Right. If we don't have to. Yeah. You know, if that's going to be a source of trigger and pain or whatever, then at least for a season, we can just take a break, and that's okay. Yeah. Or learning how to not put myself in situations where I know I'm going to be tempted to get defensive or whatever. Yeah. Just learning how to set those boundaries has been very freeing and has helped me on that path to authenticity. Is just learning, like, oh, so I can still be myself, but I can set those boundaries.
I feel like that requires, and I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, I feel like that requires some level of self-reflection. And I'm trying to think of, you know, I think to even get to the point of self-reflection, you have to be willing and have a desire to change your circumstances. Yes. You know, like your desire to change your circumstances has to be stronger than the desire to stay safe and be comfortable. Yeah. And because there's a fine line, I think we can all, you know, have fallen in some sort of cycle of comfort, whether that's a routine, whether it's a job, or whether it's a social circle, whatever that looks like. Yeah. Because it's safe and it's comfortable. We know what the outcome will be. But the desire to change and the desire to do something different, once that becomes more like overwhelmingly prominent than staying safe, I think that's a point where we go, okay. Yeah. I'm a common denominator here. So what can I do? How can I move differently, speak differently, routine differently? How can I move different to be different ultimately? Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
What are some things that you have done to get to this place? I know you said setting boundaries.
Setting boundaries, yeah.
How did you get to the point of, like, realizing that those boundaries needed to be there?
I found myself, almost kind of hitting a rock bottom type of situation where I felt that, you know, I didn't know who I was anymore. And I had to do a lot of self-reflection. And as I think back to it, like 2020 and the COVID year where we didn't get to hang out and be with other people, I started doing a lot of reflecting and realizing that I was in some unhealthy relationships, and I started to realize how that was affecting my mental state. And so I took a 3-year break from Facebook. And it was almost like a cleansing thing for me.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was a reset. And I've since gotten back on, but that was one of the things I did. And then when I got back on, I didn't include everybody in and give them access to me that had access to me before.
That's good.
And certain friendships I had to let go of. Yeah. And it's not because they're bad people. No. They're just not good for me. And that was a really hard, big step for me because I would always be concerned, like, do they think that I think this? Or what are they thinking about me? And I've just had to learn to let that go. And one of my mantras is what people think about me is none of my business.
Yeah.
Because most people are going to think about me whatever they want to, regardless of what I do or say anyway.
That's so true.
It's one of the things I've learned in my 42 years on this planet is I can tap dance and do whatever you want me to do. But at the end of the day, no matter how good my performance has been, you're still going to decide to either like me or not like me based on what you want to do.
Right.
And so part of the boundary setting was honestly learning how to cut some people out.
Yeah.
And not doing it in a dramatic fashion, but just like, you just don't have access to me anymore.
Yeah.
And also in relationships that I can't cut out, I learn to avoid conversations and just not engage in certain conversations that I know are not going to be productive. But I have also identified my safe people that have given me the space. So my fiance, we were talking about this yesterday, was one of the first people that I just completely was honest with about everything. And him being that safe person for me was the beginning of me giving myself permission to be honest with myself and other people. And I think if you can identify a person in your life that you have total safety with, then at the end of the day, it doesn't truly matter if everybody accepts who you are. If you can come to the place where I accept who I am, and I have this one person that I know loves and accepts me, that's all I need. And if you want to be here in my life, that's great.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to. But if I see that this is going to be a toxic relationship, then, you know, I wish you well. I don't wish you harm.
Right.
But we don't need to be close. And we don't need to be friends. And
I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
Understanding that, you know, just because you're not affiliating or communicating with someone, like you said, doesn't make them bad.
No.
Doesn't make them wrong.
Right.
It just makes them not...
They're not your people.
They're not good for you right now. And that's not to say that, you know, maybe they'll do their own self stuff and you guys can't circle back in the future, whoever that is for you.
Yeah.
But recognizing what you do need in this season is huge. And setting yourself up for success and having those right people around you.
Yes. And I think the self-reflection part is really critical because I think so many people go through their lives just going from one thing to the next and just they're busy and that's fine. But I think it's good to kind of reconvene with yourself from time to time and ask yourself, like, am I doing this because I want to do this? There are certain things we have to do.
Yeah.
You have to pay your mortgage. You have to go to work, all those things. But, like, is this who I am because this is who I want to be?
Yeah.
Or is this who I am because this is who I need to be to maintain this relationship with this person?
Yeah, that's so good.
And that's a question that I find myself asking a lot more often. And if I find myself having to be something for somebody, that's my first red flag that this is probably not a healthy relationship for me.
Yeah.
And we can be friends, we can be acquaintances, but I probably don't need to get close to this person if there are conditions upon me for how I need to be.
I like that you're saying that being a certain way. Because I have noticed in past relationships times where okay, so if I'm here, it's okay, but if I'm not here, it's not okay. Like, I need you to understand that both are me. And you're seeing me in an ugly way. Like, you're getting everything. You're getting the pretty and you're getting the ugly of me, which we all have. We all have the pretty and ugly.
Yeah.
And I can't always be the prettiest version of me.
Nobody can.
Like, it's just not possible. I can't live up to that expectation. So I think that's good that you noted that, you know, recognizing that if you need me to be over here all of the time when I know I'm everywhere all of the time, let's take a step
reevaluate.
back.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back, you know?
Exactly.
And that's not, again, that's like not, in my opinion, that is just not a bad thing. That's just protecting yourself. And that's being aware of what you need
It
for the
just
season that
changes
you're in.
the mode of protection. Instead of protecting yourself by being everything for everybody, depending on the situation, you just learn to identify what boundaries you need to set.
Yeah.
And
I was trying to think back to like how I even got to the realization of the level of performance that I was like really putting on and it was exhausting. I remember being so exhausted and depressed. I didn't even want to get out of bed. And I think I finally, or maybe Jake brought it up to me, I can't remember. He and I had a conversation. And then from that point, I think I just started like reflecting back on like how I even got to that point. Like, how did I even get so low? Why did that happen? Because I'd like for it to not happen again.
Right. How do we avoid this in the future? Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I've really been like putting on a damn good show.
Yeah.
I've been putting on a really good show here. And that's really good and really bad.
Yeah.
It's bad because now people have only seen a fraction of what I really am.
And have this expectation of you.
And have this expectation of me always being nice. And I'm not. Like, I'm not always nice. I'm grumpy and I'm kind of bitchy sometimes. I am sad sometimes. You know, I'm a whole ass human over here. And
you're allowed to be.
And I'm allowed to be.
Yeah.
And it was good because now I can no longer blame. Like, it allowed me to realize that I cannot blame anyone for anything at all, ever. Like, I can take complete ownership of everything, because I feel like when you are in a people-pleasing state of mind or a state of being, you are at the mercy of the other person. Like, your physical, like everything you say, everything you do, everything you feel is at the mercy of them.
Yes.
And that's a pretty volatile place to be in.
Yeah.
Because then you really legit have no idea what's going to happen, because you're at the mercy of them.
Well, and you have to be on all the time.
You have to be on all the time. That is so true. And so to realize, okay, so just because their life is in shambles and they're having all these problems, that doesn't have to affect me. And I don't have permission to blame my shambled life on their shambled life. Like, that's not a real thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If I could avoid that, I would really like to avoid that.
As when you said the performative part, that really struck a nerve with me, because I feel like I was performing my way through life too. And I think if I could like sum it up now, like my goal with my life moving forward, and I know I will still have days where I fail at this or moments where I fail at this, but like, I never want to be performing the role of Jannie anymore. I want to just be Jannie in every situation, because I was not meant to be a character. You know?
No.
I was not meant to be a character that is one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And that's my goal, is just to not ever feel like I'm performing a role for anybody. But you know, you may play a role in somebody's life, but you're not performing that role for somebody.
I love this new terminology that the kids have come up with. I love that I'm saying the kids.
The kids, yeah.
Main character energy.
See, I don't even know that that's a thing right now. That's how old I am. So.
But I love it, because it's like, okay, I feel like if I'm assuming I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah.
You know, it's this vibe of, it's me and I'm doing it because I'm the main person. Like, if I'm going to be a character, it's going to be the main character, and it's going to be my own life.
Yes.
It's not going to be anybody else's life.
Right.
And I love that, because I don't know. I just do. I don't have a reason. I just do.
Well, you're in the driver's seat. Like you said, nobody else is writing the story
exactly.
for you.
Thank you.
Yes, I knew what you were trying to say.
You're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
So, recovering people pleasers.
Yes.
At your disposal. Mm-hmm. And what does life look like for us moving forward?
I think life moving forward means continuing to flex that muscle and make it stronger. But also in the moments when we relapse into maybe people-pleasing mode, just having grace for ourselves.
Yeah,
and not feeling like we've failed.
Yeah.
But, just starting over again. Just like Tuesday was not a great day, but Wednesday came and was better.
So good.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think you took the words right out of my mouth. Being able to still self-reflect and recognize the times where, okay, I did this really well.
Yeah.
I performed for myself really, really well here. I said what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I wasn't mean about it, and I stated my feelings.
Yeah.
Now the other person knows where I stand.
Sure.
Completely and honestly. And again, if I do default back into bad habits, it's okay.
Yeah.
The ability to see that is just, that's worth everything.
Absolutely. The awareness that you did it is a victory in and of itself.
100% agree with that.
And I think just continuing to self-reflect, periodically asking ourselves, is this who I'm wanting to be? Is this who I am?
Yeah.
Am I being somebody for somebody? And if so, that's a red flag for me. And just paying attention to the red flags in relationships.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
I had something else I was going to say, and now I don't remember what it was. Giving ourselves grace. That's a good one.
Giving ourselves grace and giving others grace.
That's a big one.
Figure it out too.
Yeah. Everyone deserves that space. So that's the conversation.
That's it.
In a nutshell, in a 38-minute nutshell.
Wow. We had a lot to say.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, this was like a whole conversation yesterday that just organically happened.
Yes. We literally we were, trying to figure out concepts for the podcast and topics to talk on earlier in the day. And it just hit me smack in the face. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we should totally carry on this conversation onto this podcast, because I know damn good and well, we can't be the only people in the world that struggle with this and that actually have some people just don't desire to get better, and that's okay.
That's all right.
But there are, I'm sure, a group of people out there that want to, do better in this category and, live a more authentic life and live for themselves fully expressed.
Yes.
Not holding back.
That's good.
And so if you are someone that wants to be more fully expressed, I am by no means saying that I am an expert at all. However, I do feel like I have made some serious progress over the past several years.
Yeah.
And maybe I said something or Jannie said something that will resonate and that you can take with you and apply to your own life and do better so you can be a more whole version for the people around you, and everyone else around you is more able to experience you in the best way possible.
Absolutely.
So
I love it.
Any last words?
No, I feel like
words of wisdom?
I feel like I laid it all on the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's on the table.
Everything is on the table.
Everything is officially out there.
Yeah.
For the world to see. So don't judge us, please.
Yeah, please don't.
But I don't give a shit about what you think.
Right, also that.
This is what it is.
Right.
This is what it is. All right, cool. Thank you so much, Jannie, for coming on and having an open conversation.
Yes.
We appreciate you as always.
Happy to be here.
Okay, cut. I feel like that was good.
That was good. That flowed pretty easily.
I know. I feel like we kind of had a pretty reflective conversation of what we had yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't
even said some new things.
We put out new content.